2 years ago, Olson's for Healthy Animals gave Alexa a scholarship when she graduated from Prescott High, so we have a connection there. So welcome, Alexa. Billie, you want to start out?
Sure. Well, you know, it's on my way over here, I happened to be listening to KYCA. I'm going, oh, this is all just a bunch of not true. So I am so happy to have this opportunity tonight to talk with you about the truth. Everything you will hear from Steve and myself is the truth. This is probably our 40th, what do you think?
Yeah.
40th, and let me say last presentation tonight. So it's kind of a celebration for us. So thank you all for being here. And thank you, Nicole, for doing this. So we really appreciate it.
And Donna, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Where's Donna?
Right here recording you.
There you are. Okay, thank you. So Steve and I have been, we're part of Stand for Prescott. It's a grassroots group. And we actually got started, I want to say, like in the end of February. And our goal is to educate about why it is really essential that the city of Prescott passes this Proposition 443. You know, Steve and I were part of the Strategic Planning Committee along with Gene Wilcox. And so we looked at all the things that we needed to do for the city. Actually, it was the full council. The full council sat down together and said, what do we want for our city? So we had those goals outlined. But the number one thing is that we stabilize our general fund. Because we can say, you know, we want the stars, we want everything. But until we stabilize this general fund, it's just simply not going to happen for the city of Prescott. So how do we do that? So we went about and we looked at what are the ways that we can do. So Steve, why is our general fund not stable?
It's not stable because we have to consistently pay more and more and more to the unfunded liability for PSPRS, which is the Public Safety Personnel Retirement System. And in my mind, there are two problems. The problem for the state is the system. And there are people who are saying the state should fix the system. Okay, that's reasonable. What we're dealing with is Prescott's problem, which is stabilizing the general fund. What does stabilizing the general fund allow us to do? It allows us to fully fund police and fire. It allows us to take the best investment or return investment department ever, which is Joe Bain's Recreation Services Department, and fully fund that.
Here, here.
And it also allows us to fully fund and fully hour Prescott's living room, the library. So there are two problems. Our problem is different from the state's problem. We have to stabilize the general fund, folks. The other side says, no, we should be an example for the rest of the state in how we should be destroyed as a city. I don't agree with that at all. I think that Prescott needs to take care of Prescott. We all have that don't tread on me mentality. We can't rely on woulda, coulda, shoulda. We have to rely on ourselves. The only way to rely on ourselves is 443. Billie?
Well, and you know, this is how unstable our general fund really is, because our general fund pays for police, fire, parks, recreation, library, all the things that are quality of life. This year we're paying 22% of our general fund, I'm sorry, 20% this year, is going to service the debt of PSPRS. I mean, that's crazy. Next year, it's going to be 22%. Next year, it's $7.8 million out of a $33 million general fund is going to service this debt. So we've got to find a solution for that. So there are a lot of things that we've done in the city. We've cut services. We've cut the library a day. We combined some efficiency with Michael Lamar that came in. We cut $600,000 of salaries. Everybody's doing double duty. Joe's probably doing triple duty. And so everybody's really working hard, but how long can you sustain that? And so it's really important, and we decided we can do all of those things. We can sell property, we put property on the market, we've sold some. That's all nibbling around the edge of this. We need a revenue source to help us pay this down as soon as possible. The sooner we pay it down, the sooner we save the city a lot of money. Because if we take the 20 years to pay this unfunded liability, we're going to pay an extra at least $60 million. If we start to pay this, and that's after we've cut lots of services.
Oh, and we got a $30 million or 30-year option.
Here's what the legislature did. Take 30 years.
Yeah, take 30 years. What the heck?
Yeah.
Well, that adds another $70+ million to the situation. So Prescott, if it handles it in 30 years, could end up paying $200 million total for a $78 million debt today. So you're all business people. What makes sense? You know, there's a lot of things we considered. We considered raising property taxes. Well, it's illegal. The state made it illegal to raise property taxes.
More than 2%.
Yeah, more than 2%. So we get our little COLA thing. Last year that amounted to a total of $65,000.
For the whole city.
Yeah, for the whole city.
Yeah, crazy.
We thought about raising utility rates. We'd have to raise utility rates 40%. Now, I know some of you are concerned about regressive taxes. There's nothing more regressive than a property tax or a utility increase. Because every one of those folks that can't pay it will have to pay it. Because the landlord is not going to pay it. They're going to charge it in their rent to the people renting. So from that standpoint, the sales tax is the absolute least regressive tax. And a big reason for that is that 61% of that tax is being paid for by people coming into Prescott. 45% of it is tourists. 16% of it is people coming from Chino Valley, Prescott Valley, Williamson Valley, Diamond Valley, all the valleys. The sales tax is absolutely the best way to pay for this. Now, what is the sales tax? Let's talk about that, Billie, because if you think about it, 3/4 of a penny. Oh my gosh, the world's gonna end if we pay 3/4 of a penny. Add 3/4 of a penny to our sales tax. 3 years ago, folks, we were paying more than 3/4 of a penny. 3 years ago, we were paying 1 cent more. And the reason we're not anymore is that that was a state tax of 1 cent, and it sunsetted. So we were paying 9.35% 3 years ago. With the 3/4 of a penny now, taking our own future into our own hands, it's 9.1% versus 9.3% 3 years ago. So we've actually gotten a reduction in sales tax.
And even with the increase,
that's fuzzy math, guys.
That's common core math. With our 3/4 of a cent, we will still be the lowest sales tax in the area. I think that's really critical, and we're definitely the lowest property tax anywhere. And so I'd like to talk a little bit what the council has committed to do when 443, not if, but when 443 passes. 443 is going to pass. When it passes, this is what the council has committed to do. We've actually put it in the budget for next year. We're going to take the 1.3 standard payment from general fund, 1.3 million. We've always paid that from general fund. We will continue to pay that from general fund. We're going to take the 6.5% of the
5 million.
Of the acquired
6.5
million.
Yeah, yeah.
6.5 million of the required contribution. And we're going to add to that the 12 million from our reserves, of which there are only 60 million in reserves available to us. So that is a huge commitment. And then what,
we'll
443?
Do 443. We'll only have 6 months of 443
next year.
So
Starts
that'll
in
be
January.
about $6 million.
It comes up to over $25 million. Now that's one heck of a commitment to get this paid down. So, you know, I hear the no folks say, oh, you should have committed this, you should have done that. They have no solution. They have no solution. We know that this will work. I have a bet on the table that we're going to get this paid down in 6 years. $50 out of my pocket that we're going to get this done in 6 years.
And I think it's 8 years.
Steve says 8. You know what? I'll take 8. But the tax goes away in 10 years, no matter what. But the sooner we get it down to 1.5 million, then the tax goes away. So I believe we can get this done in 6 to 8 years. And there's a real commitment from council. And so I've heard some of the folks say, yeah, but we don't know what the next council is going to do. Well, Steve and I have 2 more years on the council. I guarantee you the people coming onto the council, like Alexa, I think Alexa will probably be coming onto the council. They are absolutely committed to getting this off our back. This is like a dark cloud that's hanging over Prescott. I was excited about tonight because you're all young.
Yes.
I know that's always relative, but you're young. And you know what? And this is about, where was I last night? Oh, I know, I was at the chamber thing yesterday morning. And I was sitting with
That was this morning.
Was that this morning?
That was this morning. Yes.
No, it was yesterday, Steve.
It
It was yesterday.
Oh dear.
You're calendar challenged. So, but we were sitting and someone said, you know, I'm the future of Prescott. And I said, you know, you really are.
Oh, yeah.
And this is about your future, your prosperity, and the prosperity of our city. We've got to get this taken care of. Because in 20 years, right next year, it's 22% of our general fund. In 20 years, it is 40% of our general fund. Is what's projected to go to service this debt. Yeah, that's ridiculous. We don't need to do that. We don't have to go down that path. There is a solution. 3/4 of a penny. Let's get this done. Steve and I had a guy on the radio. You know, Tuesday mornings we've been having fun. 2 for Tuesday.
Yes.
Sitting in for Steve Blair. So we had a guy on the radio, Scott McCready, who was the chairman of the task force for the League of Cities and Towns for PSPRS. The number one thing he said, first of all, view this as a debt. I get slaughtered on Facebook. Not a debt, it's an unfunded liability. You know what? If it's money you owe it, it's a debt. So he said, first of all, know that this is a debt and you're going to pay it. So get a plan. Get a plan together and get this paid down. This is our plan. So Steve, what is plan B?
Plan B is
There is no plan B.
the city budget.
Yeah.
We are required by law to have a balanced budget. So I got to tell you folks, the money is going to come from somewhere.
Well,
The money is going to be taken out of hides of police and fire, parks and rec, and the library. And then people out there are saying, now let's redirect the conversation to, there's $122 million that the city's hoarding. Well, yes, there is $122 million. No, the city is not hoarding it. The city has a 5-year plan, and every single dime in this $122 million is going to be spent for capital improvements in Prescott. That's road improvements. That's water improvements. It's wastewater improvements. Out of, if you look at just fiscal year 18, which is we are in right now, $54 million have already been committed to be spent in fiscal year 18. People have said, well, you've just come up with this figure. No, it's been there for a long time and has been presented numerous times at the council level. I have to tell you folks, just think of it this way. What they're asking us to do is to take this money and to spend it on PSPRS. As a businessman, plenty of you guys are business people. As a businessman, I don't take my reserves and pay off a line of credit. My reserves are used for capital improvements, things that are going to return investment for Olson's for Healthy Animals. I have to tell you, what they're asking us to do is to use a credit card to pay off another credit card. The truth is, you have to pay off one of those credit cards.
That's a shell game.
It is a shell game.
Yeah.
It is, and it's really bad public policy. The state does it. I mean, they sweep out her funds. You know, they sweep lottery funds, but that's not going to happen in the city of Prescott. See, let's open this up to Q&A.
Yeah, I'd like to open it up. You know, whether you are against 443 or for, you know, I really think that we need to have a good conversation here. So let's do that. Let's open it up.
The city, or if the city let the state fix it and they made a sales tax, what would the sales tax be?
Good question,
Yeah,
because
that's
this is what's been suggested. Let's pass a 1-cent sales tax
Can you
at
repeat
this.
the question?
Oh, what would the sales tax be if the state passed a tax, and we all had to then listen to what the state and pay that tax? It's been suggested that we pass a 1-cent sales tax at the state level. So what would that do to Prescott? Well, we would be paying more than our 3/4 of a penny, and we would not be in control of that revenue. The state could sweep it.
Yeah.
And why would we want to do that? We can pay. We are responsible for our PSPRS, and we will pay it. So I don't want to pay Phoenix's. Bisbee's in a heck of a mess. Why are they in such a mess? Because they have a huge disability. They're like twice the disability that we have in the city of Prescott. So we don't want to pay everybody else's, and we want to control our own destiny.
Think of the city of Phoenix. The city of Phoenix did take the 30-year option. Right now, their unfunded liability is $2.6 billion with a B, $billion. Taking it out 30 years has added $2 billion to that total. So they're going to be paying over 30 years $4.6 billion for their unfunded liability. You know, Kathy.
So here's a question I have that we haven't talked about.
Yes.
If the state decides to go...
She's my plant, by the way.
Really, he's probably going to go less than that.
Where did this come
If
from?
the state does go for the 1% tax, it would increase our local sales tax by another 1%. But if it was dedicated to pay off the PSPRS debt, could you sunset that 0.75 early?
Yes, the council can pretty much do anything it wants to do.
But we can actually pay it off a lot faster on our own
Well, you can.
than we could with the state.
Comes back
Yeah.
and says, okay, we're putting on this tax, we're
Yeah.
going to take care of it. Would you have the option to take off 0.75 before 10 years?
Sure.
Because the
Yeah.
state's put on the...
You know, our objective is to pay off this $78.4 million.
Well,
So, I know, but whatever it takes to pay off the $78.4 million is what we're going to do. The only thing about it is that if you look at the state, let's look at the state. Back in 1968, PSPRS came into being, and it was created by the state.
Legislature.
It's legislature. None of those legislators are there anymore today. In 1998, the legislature put on a Proposition 100 to make it part of the Constitution. None of those legislators are there today. Back in 2009, they tried to fix it. None of those legislators are there today. So what is going to force these legislators and this governor, who says he will not raise taxes, what in the world would force them to say, it's my debt, That's not going to happen, folks.
No.
It's just not going to happen. I wouldn't put the future of Prescott and entrust it to those goofballs down at the state for anything. We have to take care of our own future. Yes, sir.
If I can just make a comment anecdotally, the state is about to come up on the end of Prop 301, which is the sales tax 0.6% for education, right? That's going to be a brawl at the state level for that. You're not going to get another penny. I don't know who's talking about another penny at the state level to pay for PSPRS.
Representative Campbell.
Yeah,
And
well, that's a red herring. That's BS.
Yeah, it is.
It'll never happen, right? Because if you're going to put a penny on to the state sales tax, it's going to be for education. Number one. Number two is, you know, you guys have a debt you have to pay, right? And you're going to choose to do this locally. I'd be interested, because I'm one of those flatlanders who's coming up here a lot and paying sales tax. You said it's 61%.
61%.
Do you have projections? Is that growing? Because there's a lot of focus on Prescott Valley, and Pike County.
Well, as our tourism increases, it's growing.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, but if somebody else will pay my tab,
Yeah.
that's the vote I'm going to pay for.
Well, we have 23,000 households in the city of Prescott.
Right.
And statistically, it's 2.5 people per household. It ends up being $69 per person in the city of Prescott. And, you know, and to have people, and they should pay, because they use our services, they use our police, they use our trails, you know, and we welcome them. We want everybody to come in. We work at doing that. So I actually talked with Mark Whitfield today. You know, Billie, it's actually much higher than 61%. He said, I guarantee you, those 23,000 households in Prescott do not buy all the cars and the trucks that we sell. He says it's really quite a bit higher than 61%. So,
I agree.
So let's take a look at it realistically. What does it mean? What's 3/4 of a penny mean? That means if you're getting a cup of coffee for $3, it's now costing you $3.02. If you spend $100, it's costing you $100.75. So Billie always relates
Barry
Barb and El Gato Azul. So Billie, go ahead and relate that.
I love, you know, Barry has been such a huge part of Stanford Prescott. Yeah. I can't tell you how much food he's given us, how many events he's had. He's been wonderful. But Barry says, so, here? Oh, there we go. There's Barry.
Where's Barry?
No, he needs the food.
Oh, yeah, food, yeah. This is Barry food.
So Barry says, okay, so you come to my restaurant on a Saturday night and you spend $100. 2 couples, nice meal, little glasses of wine or whatever. And then after 4 for 3 passes, it's $100.75. So how are you going to split that 75 cents among the 4 people? You know, and I want to add one other thing, and that is Proposition 124, because the state keeps saying, let's wait till it gets fixed. There was a huge effort last year. You guys remember Prop 123, Prop 124? 123 was for education. Worked really hard to try to get that passed, and fortunately it passed at the state level, but it did not pass in Pike County. You gotta be really careful. Prop 124 passed. I'm sure most of you voted for that. That brought great reform to PSPRS. It's not being talked about enough. It did away with that permanent benefit increase, the PPI of 4%, reduced it to a COLA that's now capped at 2%, tied to CPI. That is huge. And for anybody to minimize that, I will tell you, that is part of what got us in trouble with PSPRS. It also created a new tier, and that Tier 3 started this year to make the system more sustainable in the future. The other thing that happened this year at the legislature was that we pooled some of those 256 different entities have now been pooled. There are, I think, 240 now that are pooled into the system so that we share risk. Because part of Prescott's problem is we're an old city. We have more people taking out of the system than putting in the system. So with the new Tier 3 going forward, it's now shared. But we got out the big places like Phoenix and Mesa and Tucson, so they won't hurt us.
See, here's one of the things that we don't think about. You know, Social Security has always been propped up by all the people paying in and there being less people pulling out. Well, here in Prescott, on the fire side, we have the same amount of employees on the fire side today that we had in 1992, when Prescott was half the population. So what does that do? We have more retirees than we have people putting into the system. So Prescott being 150 years old is really great, but it has its downsides, and that's one of them, folks. So, you know, it's not fuzzy math, it's real math. You know, you can't have less people paying for more people for very long before something not so good happens. So, what's the solution? 443. I'm gonna give you an analogy. You have this serious disease, and that's, let's put in quotation marks, PSPRS. And you go to the doctor, and the doctor tells you, this is the treatment plan that we suggest for you guys, for you. Put in quotations 443. And you turn around and tell the doctor, I'm sorry, doc, I don't want this disease. I didn't create this disease. So I'm not going to take any treatment until somebody finds a cure for this disease. And you know what? I hate to tell you this, but you're dead. So we have the power to fix this. And you know, Billie and I have been doing this for a long time. It seems like years.
No one wants us to end more than Kathy and my husband Bob.
Like years. And there's a really pretty local girl back there that I've known very well for the last 40 years. And she can't wait for this to be over. But I have some 443 isms that I've come up with. And my 443 isms are, no solution is not and should never be a solution. There's a difference between people making demands and people shouldering responsibility. We have clearly defined who we are and what we stand for. They have just defined what they're against. There is a difference between attitude and getting something done. And then there's the Yoda quote, because my grandson is really into Star Wars. And in the Star Wars movie, The Empire Strikes Back, Yoda made a very compelling statement. He said, do or do not, there is no try. And you know what, guys? Get out and vote, because the world belongs to those who show up.
We have some signs. I know you've all probably seen Prescott Living magazine, which is a fabulous magazine. We're so blessed that this has now come to Prescott. There's a really nice article in the very center that really talks a lot. And we wrote this early on. We wrote this before we had the data back from the Buxton Company about the 61%. So it's not in here. But I love this picture that we chose to kind of be one of our, this is kind of our brand, because it's about the future of Prescott. And I love this. It's in the library, kids. You know, this is about our city. It's about our future. And I want to just mention another thing about candidates, because we've got Alexa here tonight. We have Greg Mingarelli here. We have 7 candidates, I believe. Is it 7? I don't know.
There's 9 candidates.
All right, so 7 candidates are behind 443.
Yes.
You need to make sure you vet those candidates and you vote for someone that's supporting Proposition 443. There's a mayoral candidate that's not supporting it, and there's a council candidate that's not supporting it. So make sure that you vet and that you support someone that's supporting 443, and we ask you to vote yes on 443. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes. You know, a lot of people I come across, and I do believe that 443 is the cure. I'll stick with the medical analogy. But a lot of people I come across, they think maybe it's a Band-Aid. What's the long-term health once the debt's gone? Meaning, so we don't get ourselves back in that predicament.
I have to tell you that the state with 124 went a long way to fixing this thing. If you look at, Billie talked a little bit about it. Now if you look at a young guy, he has a choice, or a young woman, they have a choice of a defined contribution plan or a defined benefit plan. And you go, why would you take a defined contribution over a defined benefit? Because a defined contribution is like a 401k, and it's portable. You don't have to be a fireman for the rest of your life in order to have a portable retirement system. You do if you're in a defined benefit system. Plus, these guys have to work. They can, right now, they can retire at 20 years. The guys in Tier 3 have to work 25 years before they can retire. And then, right now, you can retire at 20 years. You could be 40.
Well, yeah, and then we have to pay your pension for
you could absolutely.
60
You could
years.
be 40.
My grandma's 88 and lives on Delano.
Yeah, but now, in Tier 3,
50 years.
In Tier 3, you can't get benefits until you're 55. So they've gone a long way to fixing this. Plus, what Billie talked about, the PBI, permanent benefit increase, that's gone away of 4%, replaced by a 2% max, dependent on cost of living. So, and they could get no increase if cost of living didn't go up or went up in a minor way. So they've gone a long way to fixing this, but it's not going to be immediately apparent. What's going to happen is that it's going to show up over the next few years in the actuarials, and that's where it needs to show up. So, yes, it has been really worked on.
The more we start paying this unfunded liability
Right, so if the
down,
growth keeps on happening like it's doing, being in real estate, people keep moving in. And
yeah, and the more we start paying this
Then we
unfunded
can pay it down
liability, the
quicker.
required annual payment's going to be less, and then we can get this paid off sooner. So, it's just like if you only pay your minimum payment on your credit card, which is what the city has done, quite frankly, because that's all they could afford to do. I mean, you can't give up more than 20% or 22%. When you pay just your minimum credit, what happens to your credit card? It goes out of sight. Same thing with this. So that's kind of the situation we're in. So we need to make double, triple payments, and let's get this taken care of for Prescott, and we can do it. This guy Stephen I had on, he has what he calls success stories. We told him we want to be one of his success stories, and Prescott will be. The other guys want Prescott to be the whipping board, the sacrificial lamb. We're not going to do that with Prescott. We're going to show the rest of the state how to fix this. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Any more questions?